Hey, Patrick here. Welcome to another episode of Record Rooms. This is a show where I interview record collectors in their record rooms. On today's episode, I'm speaking with Don Pyle. Don is a great inspiration to a guy like me who also likes to jump around creative pursuits as much as I can, honestly. A couple highlights from Don's career. He was the singer in the late 70s Toronto punk band Crash Kills 5. He's also a photographer who got his start in the kind of late 70s Toronto punk movement. He took classic photos of all the best Toronto bands: Teenage Head, Vile Tones, Diodes, The Curse, The Ugly, as well as all the best first wave punk bands that rolled through Toronto: Ramones, Blondie, 999, Dead Boys, Iggy Pop, Stranglers, shit, even The Clash. Don's first book, Trouble in the Camera Club, collects all the best photos of this era, but he remains a photographer to this day. A little later, he played drums in the mostly instrumental surf rock band Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet. They're best known for doing the theme song and a lot of the interludes on the TV show Kids in the Hall. This might just be because I'm Canadian, but I grew up watching Kids in the Hall, and I always loved that theme song. I always enjoy making these episodes, but there's something really special about being able to connect that dot to such an early part of my life. Shadowy Men also went on to record with Steve Albini multiple times, as well as Fred Schneider from the B-52s. More recently, about 2 weeks ago as of when I'm recording this, Don put out his third book, Rough Description, on ECW Press. If you enjoy this interview, you might want to check out the extended version on my Patreon. There's 10 extra minutes of records, song samples, and more stories from Don's life. Membership starts at just $2 a month, and I also do a monthly rare record giveaway. This month, June 2026, my giveaway record is Man Machine by Kraftwerk. This is a super cool Japanese pressing with the obi strip and the insert. Really great record in really nice condition, and come on, everybody loves Japanese press. But I wanted to up the ante a little bit this month, so I'm also giving away a Don Pyle prize pack. I've got an autographed copy of Rough Description, Don's new book, an original pressing of the first and only Crash Kills 5 record from 1980. This is straight from Don's collection, and a 2012 pressing of Savvy Showstoppers by Shadowy Men. I even cover shipping to the winner. Okay, and with that, let's jump right in. This is Record Rooms, Don Pyle.
Hi, I'm Don Pyle. I'm a musician and writer and photographer. I play in a band called Long Branch. I was in a band called Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet for many years. I have a couple books out. I have a new book coming out, which will probably be out by the time you see this. First book is Trouble in the Camera Club, which is photos from the early punk days. I do recording of other people, I mix other things, I do some film scoring.
Crash Kills 5, can't forget.
Oh yeah, I can forget. Yeah, I was in a band called Crash Kills 5 when I was a teenager.
Everywhere I go, it's always there. Everywhere I go.
When you and I were talking about setting this up,
Yeah.
we wanted to root it heavily around the book. I know it's,
Yeah.
you described it as memoir-ish.
It's a collection of writing about either situations that I've been in, either starting a band, touring in a band, putting out a record that keeps coming out over and over again, going to hair school. I kind of realized as I was sort of further into it, is sort of memorial. And it's a way to kind of put a spotlight on different people who have been significant to me and talk about either my experiences with them or what they meant to me. And some of that sort of came about from the sort of really super heightened emotions after the person died. Like Dallas Good, who I was good friends with and played music with for many years. Your emotions are at the height of them, and all your memories of the person are very present. And so I'm like thinking about all these things. So I wanted to kind of like record like, a lot of those feelings. There was a small memorial after he died for like family and kind of closer friends. And I read what I had at that time, and then was asked to read that at his sort of larger, sort of more public memorial. And then I just kind of like kept adding to it. And then same with like Steve Albini dying. Again, it was like, just like all these emotions and feelings are really present with me. Just like being in a band, and I had kind of made a set list of like, who do I have feelings about that, or thoughts about that I feel like I have enough to say that I could write a chapter on them. So when I made my sort of master list, I was like, this looks like it could be a book.
And so when you think back, how did music like kind of first enter your life?
Oh my God. Like I don't remember a time when it wasn't. I was always the person in the house who was like obsessed with records. It was totally like, kids going to the liquor store and getting, an adult to buy them booze. I was going to the library and getting people who could access the adult library, like, can you go get me that, whatever album, Blue Oyster Cult Live that they have in, not only music, but I, realized much later too that it was all the other elements about it, like, all the information on the covers. Over time, I really kind of see like how many things that I've done are kind of about archiving and my own kind of like obsession with kind of like music history and cultural histories, how different things connect to each other. From a really young age, me and a couple of other friends were going downtown like every Saturday, go to every single store, all the used record stores, all the news stores, look at what everything was, look at the prices of everything, and then go all the way down to Dundas, which is where the record stores ended, and then go back in reverse to buy, one record or two records or three records, whatever, at whatever store had it for the best price. Or
you'd shop around first and then go back and
yeah. But, it was like a whole day, and it was like about just like looking at records.
What year would that have been?
Probably starting at about 1970. So I was going downtown on my own from a pretty young age.
I spent many Saturdays doing the exact same thing. I wasn't 8, but I was probably about 14, 15 when I started doing that.
Yeah.
Similar story, different decade.
Yeah, different time period. Being in a used record shop is the best place to get the best pickings of anything.
It's an education, honestly.
Oh my God, like such an education.
Obviously, this is like in the pre-punk era. You were into Blue Oyster Cults. What other records were you chasing back then?
Oh my God. Well, through David Bowie, I got really into a lot of other things like Lou Reed, the Velvet Underground, the Stooges, the New York Dolls were another band that I was really obsessed with, Sparks, Roxy Music, kind of like a lot of the sort of things that are sort of standards now.
Maybe T-Rex also?
Oh yeah, of course T-Rex. Yeah. I was super into the T-Rex records, but it was only kind of like much later that I kind of went back and like really fell in love with the Tyrannosaurus Rex records as well.
The earliest stuff,
yeah. Which I think are amazing now. Yeah. Things that I didn't so much like think of at the time. But I was always like really excited by like new things, like new sounding things, like synthesizers. Like, there's certain records that I hear now. Like I played Pinups by David Bowie recently. Yeah. It's got like a synth in it, pew, like every once in a while. And I remember being like so excited by those sounds. Like, what is that? Or Edgar Winter's Frankenstein.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or Kraftwerk Autobahn. Like when the single of that came out, like that really blew my mind.
I think it's still having that effect on people, right? And Bowie still has this effect on people.
Yeah. Patti Smith, like the first Patti Smith album. I mean, that's a little, kind of like getting into like 75.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. This album I pulled out because the first day that I met Reed Diamond and Brian Connolly, who I'd end up being in Crash Kills 5 with and Shadowy Men with, the Jam were playing in Toronto that night at the Colonial Tavern, and Reed was like, are you kidding? Like, you're in fucking Calgary when the Jam are playing in Toronto right after In the City came out?
In our city there's 1,000 things I want to say to you.
Man Who Sold the World. A couple of versions of the original one of that.
I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone.
David Bowie was like my first like real obsession. I never steal from stores, you know?
But
And I didn't really think of this as stealing at the time because I wasn't stealing a record, but back when I was a kid, imports were open. Sam the Record Man particularly, they had a lot of imports. Okay, I'm gonna buy whatever record I'm buying, but I'm gonna take it over here to the David Bowie section so I can sneakily take out the inner sleeve that's in the British version and sneak it into the whatever it is that I'm buying. Whoever is going to buy the British copy of The Man Who Sold the World, they are never ever going to know that that it originally came with an inner sleeve.
it's a perfect crime.
I wrote a chapter called Drums Are Stupid, which is kind of about why drums are stupid, but also about drummers, like, you know, about some of my favorite drummers. One of the earliest drummers who I was like really kind of crazy about was Woody Woodmansey, who plays drums on this album. And I fucking love this album. It's like such a heavy, like prog sort of like metal album. So this is the first album that Woody Woodmansey isn't on. And the drummer is Ainsley Dunbar. So this was another one of my drummer writings that that the drumming on this album really blew my mind. I think this was like the first album that I like really kind of like tuned into what the drummer was doing that like really sort of like excited me. His drumming was kind of like the centerpiece of the record. Kind of like as like, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit, but John Marr from the Buzzcocks.
I can talk about John Marr all day long.
And if I start a commotion, I run the risk of losing you, and that's worse.
Over time, you listen to music differently. You hear the production more. When you're young, everything's kind of like a mystery. It's just like a sound cloud. And Late for the Train on this thing, instrumental track that starts with the drums. When I started playing drums, that was the thing that I was trying to play. This record was a lesson in economy in drumming. 30 years after this record came out, I saw a film clip of him playing it, and it was just dun 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 dun. I was like, oh my God, that's so easy. But, you know, then you start to sort of like subtract him from the Buzzcocks. When the next drummer came in the band and I heard those same songs, it was like, holy shit. It's like he was like the lead instrument.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Pete Shelley, Steve Diggle get a lot of praise for the Buzzcocks, rightfully so.
As they should.
As
you
they
know,
should.
they're one
But
of the
John
best
Marr
bands.
is such an important part of that sound. And like, nobody plays the hi-hat like John Marr does. It's not like a Tommy Markey Ramone situation.
Yeah.
He's lifting the hi-hat constantly. Like his left foot is bouncing somewhat sporadically.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know any other punk drummer that plays quite like John Marr.
Yeah. Well, he was like super fast and like really like proficient, like far.
And he was
more,
a teenager at the time.
far more proficient than like almost anybody else who was in that kind of first wave of punk. A Buzzcocks bootleg, which I mean, you never see these anymore. With my own things that I would cut out and stick into them. This is when Howard Devoto was still in the band, and a test pressing of Singles Going Steady.
Is that from the time?
Yeah, of course.
How did you get that?
This was from working in the used record store.
Do you want to sell that?
No.
I just wanna love her like any other. What do I get? I only want a friend who will stay to the end.
The Cramps. This is a bootleg of them playing in Toronto from a show that I was at in 1980. First couple of Cramps singles.
Human Fly, Surfing Bird.
I played these last night because, you know, I pulled some stuff out for us to look at, and I bought these like, you know, literally the first day that you could. But when I played this last night, Human Fly,
It sounds incredible, right?
unlike the other versions of it, like either on CD or digital, the vocal sounds, you can feel like the air of like the overdriving of the distortion and that frequency when you blow into a mic, that kind of like nasty kind of that everybody tries to get rid of in a recording. I hadn't really noticed before like how prominent that is in the record.
It's like the defining feature of that record.
Absolutely. It's like all of a sudden there's like a new low frequency. I wrote about this exact show that was on that bootleg. Bruce from Kids in the Hall and a couple of friends of his were out in Toronto. Lux came into the audience, one of the guys from Alberta and on vacation in Toronto and kind of overdoing it a bit. And he passed out at the Cramps show and was laying with his head on the table like this, and Lux came in the audience, took his pants down and squatted on his head, and as he was doing Human Fly, took his dick and was rubbing it all over Terry's forehead. Especially satisfying because this guy Terry became a cop later, and so I love knowing that this future cop had Lux Interior rub his dick all over his face without him knowing it. Chelsea, kind of first wave punk band with the ticket from their show at the Edge in 1979. I wrote about this in the book in relation to kind of like homophobia that I experienced in the scene. One of those instances was at a Chelsea show. One of the British papers had this column called Embarrassment Corner, where they would, put pictures of, like, I remember, like, the Vibrators before they cut their hair. And they had done a photo of Gene October from a gay porno that he had done. During the show, like, in the silence in between songs, someone shouted out at him. Like, maybe nothing to most people, but to me it was like, sort of part of the thing of what created the fear of coming out. And I could see in that moment that, like, he kind of froze and he kind of smiled and he put his head down and it was just like silence. He didn't respond, didn't say anything. This moment that was kind of like probably nothing to most people was like, hugely impactful on me. How many gay people were in kind of like the early punk scene that were closeted, and I was kind of like up until a point, like kind of in between Crash Kills 5 and Shadowy Men, I came out. Thank goodness, because I wasn't going to start a new band with these people that I was good friends with, when meanwhile I'm like out living my life as a young gay.
Yeah. Firstly, I know you as a photographer.
Yeah.
How does photography enter the picture?
Well, I think that's also kind of like part of the documenting thing, Photography was a way for me to have images of the things that were exciting to me. That kind of like started coinciding with the beginning of punk rock, just accidentally because of my age and what the things were that were interesting to me. The first time the Ramones played in Toronto in 1976.
At the New Yorker?
Yeah, I took photos of them on my Instamatic camera, and then like, any Instamatic pictures, you get them back and they're crap. So those Ramones pictures were so terrible that I was like really compelled to buy a 35 millimeter camera.
Which one did you get?
I had a Canon AT1, which was a fully manual camera. First Ramones album, which, of course everybody has.
Yeah, is that record any good?
It's a really good record. I did a whole chapter on the Ramones, and it's not like specifically about the Ramones, but it's kind of like about discovery of a lot of things. I was like really excited about the Ramones before I'd even heard them, just from seeing pictures of them. Like, I knew what they were going to sound like by what they looked like. I remember being in a record store downtown looking through bins, and this music came on over the record store stereo. The second I heard it, I knew it was the Ramones. The album had like literally come out that day. So this is the copy I bought on the day of release. I went and saw them the first time they played here when I was 14. I took my album, got them to sign it. Joey here, originally I had this marker before Sharpies existed. This shitty marker that I had brought with me to get them to sign it. Joey wrote his name when it was like beating and was obviously going to wipe off. He had a ballpoint pen, and so he got it out and traced over his name and then passed it to the others. So,
And you got your ticket and pick.
yeah, ticket, Johnny's pick, a heavy pick for playing guitar, a couple of ads from the show. Definitely like huge influence on me, like not only musically, but conceptually, just like the beautiful minimalist concept of the Ramones.
It's like maximum minimalism.
Yeah. And it's funny because like, I think about them as inventing this kind of like new kind of music, but then, I hear some other things that are similar, but it's like one song or part of one song. Actually, there's something on one of these ads, the most cleanly conceptualized New York rock show there is to see.
Just wanted to interrupt quick and remind you that there's an extended version of this interview on my Patreon. Membership starts at $2 a month, and it also gets you entered into the rare record raffle that I do every month. I've got this Japanese Kraftwerk record, and this month I'm also doing my Don Pyle prize pack. So we got an autographed copy of Rough Description, the first and only Crash Kills 5 record from 1980, one of Don's dead stock copies, and this 2012 pressing of the classic Shadowy Men record, Savvy Showstoppers. Okay, back to the episode.
When I did the Trouble in the Camera Club book, when I scanned the negatives and adjusted exposure and retouched the dust out of them and stuff, like these pictures that I thought were garbage are just like, oh my God, this is a beautiful photo.
For people who maybe haven't read it or aren't familiar, it's a collection of, I imagine it's not all of your photos from that era, but a lot of concert photography from Toronto in the late 70s.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not all of my photos, but all of my best photos from that period.
Ramones, Blondie, Talking Heads, Clash, XTC.
Yeah, Vile Tones, The Ugly, The Curse, Teenage Head.
When does Crash Kills 5 start?
Crash Kills 5 started kind of like 1978. Reed Diamond, Brian Connolly, Alex Koch, when they moved here from Calgary, they were in a band called Buick McCain, left their singer behind, moved to Toronto. Kind of got here as like, the first sort of wave was like dying, 1978, things were already like really shifting. A lot of bands like the Vile Tones, had fallen apart. A bunch of them quit and became the Secrets.
Give me to I'll scream at death.
When a lot of the kind of like ideals of what I felt like punk rock was were sort of falling apart. It was when a lot of like really boneheaded people were coming into the scene. It wasn't just, people who were in love with the music. There were a lot of people who were coming to fight.
What can you tell me about this right here?
I made this poster.
I know you did. That's why I brought it here.
How did you know that I made it?
I know a lot of things.
These are some of the photos from my mother's collection. This is actually my father. It's kind of interesting when I look at this now. There's my mother feeding a deer because, it's kind of like the kind of like interest in photography. I love the edges on these old photos. When we played the show, we didn't even know who Protex were.
Right.
It was something that either Gary Topp or Gary Cormier, who were the booking agents who booked, all the best shows in Toronto. This was the second club that they were booking after booking the Horseshoe. At the time, we really didn't know anything about them. And that was like pretty common. Like, bands were coming here and playing with, one record out. Like I wrote about in the new book about the first time seeing Gang of Four. Because they borrowed Crash Kills 5 equipment to play their first show in Toronto. And when I look back, they had like 2 singles out. Same with like Psychedelic Furs. Psychedelic Furs had like 1 7-inch single.
I'm in love with the Supremes. Oh, baby love. I'm in love with...
So it was pretty, bold for a band to come out here and do that. But I sort of understand that because like Shadowy Men, like the first time we went across the country, we had 1 single out,
And so obviously Bruce McCullough was nearby. How did the Kids in the Hall connection happen after that?
Basically, when Bruce joined Kids in the Hall, Reed was like learning how to do all this stuff, and so he became their theater tech.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize he
doing-
was working on the show too.
Doing like the staging, just doing like everything, like basically kind of like being the director of the show. Because we started like pretty much the same time, and we were friends, and Bruce was the kid who was most interested in music, had the most sort of like musical sort of thought process in terms of putting sketches together or...
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Do you have the new Depeche Mode record?
Yeah, it's over there. But it sucks.
He would sometimes ask us to do a custom piece. They did a theater show, which they asked us to do the music for it. And then as a result of that theater show, they ended up getting a TV special and then a series.
You guys were the sound of the show, really.
This is the Fleshtones' first album, Roman Gods. Amazing, underrated album. We had a booking agent in the United States asked us at some point, like, you know, who do you want to play with? Like, you know, who would you guys like to tour with? And we were like, well, I don't know, Alice Cooper and the Fleshtones. And he was like, the Fleshtones? Are you kidding? Well, that one's easy to do. A few weeks later, he called us, okay, you're booked on this tour with the Fleshtones. We went like a really long way with them, like, you know, all down through the middle of the United States and back to the East Coast and around through the South and to Florida. One of those tours where you're playing so many shows where you think like, yeah, you know, I'll watch them for a few of the nights. But every night they were like totally captivating. I kind of like feel sort of weird calling myself an artist because I think, you know, oh, I want to make records, or I want to learn how to record records, or I want to learn how to mix records, I want to take photographs, I want to make video, I want to write a book, you know.
That's all art, though.
Yeah,
right?
I know it
It's
is.
quite a wide umbrella term.
It all is. But I think sometimes because I think of myself as not being like particularly great at any of these things because I haven't dedicated myself to any of these things. This one I pulled out because Shadowy Men played on this record. Just Fred by Fred Schneider. Produced by Steve Albini, not just recorded by Steve Albini.
Stand there putting sugar in my heart. I'm gonna get you.
I wrote about the experience of recording with Fred in the chapter about Steve because it was such a kooky, like unexpected experience, and Fred was so fantastic. He came up to Toronto to our garage in Parkdale, and we rehearsed and wrote songs there. There were 3 different bands that played on this, but we were the only band that actually wrote songs with him. He had sent us a tape of songs that him and his writing partner had done, and so Steve was like getting everybody to learn it. You know, he would kind of like figure out what bands would record what. 2 bands would record the same song and he would just like pick which was the better version. This was like the last thing that we really did. We split up not too long after, but this was a pretty fantastic experience. And I pulled this out in relation to it because I couldn't find my 3-inch single of Big Black doing In My House by the Mary Jane Girls. Such a kooky song for Big Black to do. It's a 3-inch single that came with the Pig Pile, the video, the VHS of their last performance. I went through a little Cabaret Voltaire listening session last night, partly because I love them and I'm going to Manchester to see them.
Just what we see. It's not to be what you want, because naturally, guess what?
This is a Vile Tones bootleg. Uses one of my photos on the cover of it.
And my head's in an oven, and my feet are tied up, and my head's got a number.
Interesting over the years to see like where your photos end up. I love this photo, but my very favorite thing is this exact photo that someone made on a baby onesie. And I just happened to see this picture, my photo on a baby onesie. First used the Mary Chain album, or single, Upside Down Vegetable Man. I wrote about playing with them. We played with them like right after Psycho Candy came out. We were all super into those first 3 singles, which, you know, was all that we were out when we were booked to play the show. Mickey Skin, band that she had after The Curse, Bangkok.
Eastern world, it is exploding, violence flaring, bullets loading, and you're old enough to kill.
Cool, Don. So I really appreciate you having me here, talking about your stuff, talking about your story, your taste.
Yeah, thanks for cleaning my house before you arrived. I appreciate that.
I wonder if you have any advice for the younger generation of music fans, of collectors who are just starting out this journey.
It's such a tough time to be a collector because everything is monetized now in a competitive market, which is the internet. I think my advice in many things is to be fair and honest, being open and honest, and don't steal.
Not even David Bowie inserts?
There's certain things, you know, I'm all for anybody stealing food from Walmart, but not amongst people who are like collectors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Collecting, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's an easier game and it's a more difficult game. You can all go on to Discogs and buy anything you want, or go to Japan and fucking every record you could ever fantasize about is available on every pressing, as I just found out. Finding those places in someone's garage sale, I mean, that's why I don't even bother with that stuff. I just don't have the patience. It's too everything's too picked over. There are too many pickers. That's the thing. Don't be a dick picker. That's the fucking thing. I hate when all the good stuff is gone because there's a picker who has, like, you know, scoured the bottom of the sea for all the best records. You know, be fair. If you don't want the record, just leave it. Let somebody else buy it.
Okay, cool. Well, I feel like we could talk probably all day about stuff, but we didn't even talk about flyers or paper, and I know you're deep into that world as well. Maybe next time.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Welcome back. So, what did you think about Don's record room? Those high shelves kind of stress me out, but they're very stylish, I will say. Let me know in the comments what you thought. If you're still here and you made it to the end of the episode, you might want to consider signing up for my Patreon. I put up extended and ad-free versions of all my videos there before they hit YouTube. And if not, that's cool. I'll see you next time.